Hi, Adri. How are you doing today?
I am doing just fantastic. I can't wait to record this episode with you.
Me too. I'm very excited.
I've been looking forward to this for a very long time.
Yeah, because we get to talk every single week, but it's always like with such a purpose. We always have like a very specific topic to talk about. And we do our little chats offline before and after, but we never get like a on-air chitty chat.
Yeah, and that's what you're getting, listeners. Because guess what? This is not just for you and I, Helene. Surprise.
Nope.
Nope. We are being recorded. This is a recorded line, as they say in the call centers. And our audience is the quality assurance people.
Yes. It's like that creepy voice that comes on when you're on Zoom and it's like, this call is being recorded.
So yeah, basically that. Yes, this call is being recorded. I think we should, well, first say like, hi, thanks for pressing play on this introductory episode to Growing Up Millennial. Um, my name is Adri. If this is the first time you're hearing my voice because you didn't hear to our last podcast, hello. If not, if you're listening to the Archaeopolitics podcast, hello again. And I'm joined by the lovely, wonderful, funny Helene Carr, who was my co-host in Archaeopolitics.
And in life.
And in life, yeah, you're my co-host in life as well.
Yeah, we thought it would be nice just, for everyone to get to know us a little bit outside of just talking about nostalgia-filled movies, but we're also going to talk about nostalgia stuff.
Of course, yeah, but also kind of get like an intro feeling of here's where we're coming from, kind of shorthand of like when because I'm not gonna explain myself every time. I'm like, well, I didn't have this growing up, or I didn't know about this growing up, because that's a lot.
Yeah.
So, Helene, tell us, or tell me, pretend like it's just us, because it is just us for now, about how you grew up and what has shaped you.
Yeah, a little about me. I grew up in a small town, well, mid-sized town for Iowa, in Iowa.
Wait, I gotta stop you there. Okay. So is it like more like is it like the same thing about, oh, she's a New York 5 but a like Midwest 10 kind of situation?
Sort of, yeah. I mean, I don't want to say small town because there are
Even smaller
undoubtedly
towns?
much, much smaller towns, especially in Iowa. Davenport is where I grew up. It's a decently sized town. It's actually one that most people have heard of. It's, called part of the Quad Cities. So I grew up there with, my mom, my dad, my sister, and my brother. Although I was mostly a only child because my sister's 13 years older than me, and my brother is 10 years older than me. And it's a very Jewish family. My dad was a rabbi. He's retired. And my mom was a cantor. She's also retired. And a cantor is a Jewish song leader. So very, very Jewish household, but Reformed Jews. So, we're not crazy Orthodox. Not that Orthodox is crazy. That's not what I meant. If you're an Orthodox, you're listening to this podcast, I love you. That's not what I meant.
It's just a different flavor.
Yes. And what shaped me? My dad and I are really close, and the way that we bonded growing up was through TV shows and movies. We would, my dad's not a super like adventurous, like outdoorsy type of person. No one in my family really is. And so
we stand this.
Yeah. Like he's not into sports. He's a very like chill dude. And his idea of fun and bonding and a good night with his children is sitting on the couch and watching a movie. And that's literally what we did almost every single night to hang out, or we go to the movie theater, or we, binge watch a show together. So, I grew a love of film from that, and just, having that be the thing that bonded me with my dad. And then my sister, being 13 years older than me, she's also one of my best friends. She grew up in the 80s. I grew up in the 90s. And a little sister idolizes her big sister. I wanted to be her. I loved everything that she loved. And so she introduced me to a ton of, early 90s to late 90s media that I don't feel like I would have gotten into otherwise,
Mhm.
because I was born in 93. I'm 30 currently. And so I was pretty young to get into like that early 90s stuff, I feel like. But she really got me into things like Buffy and, Bring It On and 10 Things I Hate About You, and a lot of the like pieces of media that really, really like impacted me and shaped me as a human.
Alright. So I have follow-up questions, okay? Okay, so you talked about first about how your dad loves media and that's kinda how you bond.
Yeah.
What is like if you had to pick maybe top 3 pieces of media or even top 1 or the number 1 that you guys bonded over, what would it be?
My dad and I think mostly bonded over Harry Potter, to
Oh
be
my god.
honest.
Which by the way was, the subject of our previous podcast, not to like plug it again.
Yes, Accio Politics, go listen. It's on your feeds. Yeah, he would be the one that would, take me to all the midnight book releases, and then he would be the one to take me to all the midnight movie releases. And he loved the series just as much as I did. And when we're just sitting at home and like we can't decide what we want to watch, the thing we always fall back upon is, do you want to watch a Harry Potter movie? And we don't care. We're just like, which one do you want to watch tonight? It doesn't matter. And we'll just pick a random one. And that's always like what we choose if we can't decide on anything else.
I
So
feel like I should get you one of like those spinning wheels, like they just spin and like it just whatever it falls on, that's the movie you're gonna watch.
yeah, yeah. I mean, my dad has like bookshelves. You know how people have like tons of bookshelves filled of books? He has tons
Mhm.
of bookshelves filled with DVDs.
Oh my god,
Um,
I love that.
so he has like this huge library. I think he probably still buys DVDs, even though no one's buying DVDs anymore. Uh, and yeah, we would
Unless
just
it's us for this podcast.
True. Yes, it is kind of weird getting back to DVD watching in
I
this
know, I know.
podcast.
It is so
Uh,
weird. It is
I really
like
I wish things were streaming more. Is all I gotta say.
exactly. Speaking of duties, like I just as in a quick aside, like I had to like think really hard about like, do I need to buy a DVD player? And then I remembered I have a PS5 and I was like, oh, I'm
Yep,
covered. It's fine.
that's what I've been using too. I've been using my PS5. Heck yeah.
Oh, I love it. Okay, so my second follow-up question was you also mentioned that your sister had like a
Mhm.
big effect on the media consumption that you did and like how it shaped you. But what was like the piece of media or pieces of media other than like the ones that you've already mentioned, like Bring It On, 10 Things I Hate About You, Buffy,
Mhm.
that you bonded over the most? And like,
Yeah.
how has that like carried over to like now, 2023?
Yeah, well, I know I did already mention Buffy, but that is by far the biggest one, but,
Okay, okay. Honorable
but
mention again.
yes, that's, like, the thing that we bond over the most, but, she also really got me into Charmed and Veronica Mars,
Okay,
which
awesome.
are, like, peak, early aughts. I think Charmed might be late '90s,
Yeah,
um,
I mean,
masterpieces. Uh
whew, who's your daddy? I mean, Veronica Mars is everything.
It's the best. I fucking love Veronica Mars.
Keith
I love all
Mars
those
is
things.
a treasure to the world.
He's my favorite character, as we
Yeah.
have discussed privately, but the listeners need to know Keith Mars is my favorite character.
And, that doesn't mean that we won't do a whole season on Veronica Mars later down the road.
I would be honored.
I love, like, you were acting like this is an award show. Like, I'm so honored that you would choose Veronica Mars as a subject for one of our seasons.
I mean, not like I don't get a say in it or anything, but this is a
Literally, you're half this
democracy, so
podcast. Yeah, literally, you're half this podcast. Like, we can't we can't make a decision without the other person.
that's true. But it is a democracy. I can't force you to do anything. So, because if we had it my way, we would do every single episode of Buffy, and I know we
We are
can't
not
do
doing
that.
that, and we
I
already
know
discussed that.
exactly, exactly. So this is a democracy at work, guys. You're seeing the inner workings.
Just a peek behind the curtain.
So, what about you? Tell me a little bit about yourself. We know, well, if the listeners has listened to anything, we know that you grew up in Puerto Rico. So, you can speak on
Yes.
that a little bit. How did that affect your, you know, consumption of media and who you
Whew.
are today?
Okay, so I am a little older than you by like
Hmm
7 years. And just just had to like throw that out there real quickly. So I'm basically between you and your sister in terms of like millennial age gaps, right? But your
hmm
sister is definitely Generation X, right?
She's like on the cusp. I think she's like one, like just past Generation X from
Oh,
Millennial.
she's probably like, like an in-betweener, kind of like.
Well, she was born in 1980. I think we've looked this up. I think it might be 1981 is when millennials start.
Yes, I believe so. She's might be on the cusp of. My husband, Seth, was born in 80, but it was December. So
That's her
I tell
too.
him,
Wait,
so
when's
I
his
tell
birthday?
December 8th.
Oh.
I almost blinked and it's so embarrassing.
That's crazy. I don't know if we've talked about this. My sister's December 12th, so it's very, very, very
Oh,
close.
so I mean, Sagittarius. Love a Sagittarius.
Hmm
Um Obviously because I'm a Gemini and I'm the opposite of a Sagittarius. So of course, like magnets together. Um anyway, um
I'm a Virgo for
he
anyone who cares.
I mean, and I am a Virgo rising, and this is why we get along. Um, I am not a super astrology girly, but I also dabble. It is what it is.
Same.
Anyway, where was I? I also have ADHD, so this is why we
You were
need
talking
structure
about how
sometimes.
your birthday is in between my
Oh yes.
sister's.
So okay. So I think honestly, if you were born in like October plus 1980, you're kind of an honorary millennial almost, right? Like
Yeah.
there's not that much difference in a month
Yeah.
developmentally, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's a lot of references that he gets that that I tell him and he gets, and there are other things he completely missed the boat on, like the
Yeah.
Mary Kate and Ashley movies that we're talking about on season 1 of this a very fun podcast. Uh, are completely new to him. So this has been a
Love that
journey
for
of
him.
us. Yeah, it is. It has been a wonderful journey of showing him these masterpieces of Oscar worthy films, and he gets to give us his input on a little segment we like to call White Man's Corner because we do believe in giving a voice to the oppressed. Um,
Of course.
it's so underrepresented white men in podcasting. I don't know if you know this, Helene.
Yeah, straight white men specifically, for sure.
Specifically so underrepresented, and I feel like we're doing a public service. So I'm in between you and your sister, so I'm like, solidly millennial. I feel like I was born
Yeah.
in 86,
hmm
solidly millennial. I'm an elder millennial. um but as you said, I grew up in Puerto Rico. I actually lived in Puerto Rico up until I was 24 years old. And then I moved to New Mexico to do my master's degree in literature. But that's a story for another time. Um, and the thing about growing up, especially in like late 80s, early 90s, and even the 2000s, because I left in 2010, um, in Puerto Rico, is that before the internet was what it is right now, and I'm talking about like the AOL days when you had to have like the CD and there was like a whole dial up and like
Yeah.
all the deal. Um, there was not a lot of like media that made it to the island unless you had cable, which was very expensive.
hmm
I mean, still is, but even more so back then.
yeah.
Um, and you had to pay for the internet by like the minute. I don't know if you remember those days. Uh,
Very vaguely.
yeah, so it was by the minute, and it was like a whole thing. So like I obviously had very limited access to the internet as a youth because my father did not want to pay for it. And I had cable on and off my entire life. So like not my entire life was with cable. So I had like a lot of access to just like local TV, which like had Telemundo and Univision and like these
Mhm.
like, obviously Spanish speaking things. So if I saw a piece of media, like a movie on like that like base like the normal like non-cable TV, right? It was dubbed in Spanish. So it's not super helpful to me because I don't love dubbed movies. I like to watch a movie in its original language. And if I don't speak the language, then I'll just read the subtitles. I don't
Yeah.
like there's something about dubbing that just rubs me like it just seems unnatural
Yeah,
to me.
it's the core of the performance can really be like made or broke by the vocal acting and intonation. I remember I tried to watch Squid Game when it first came out in English dub, and I was like, "This is weird." And then I think one episode I accidentally turned on, and I just had instead of doing English dub, it just was English subtitles, and I was like, "Oh, this is so much better."
Yeah, it
Like,
is. It is.
it's
It
just
I've seen, like, Polish films, Swedish films, like, all kinds of different, like, foreign films. I don't speak any of those languages, right? Um, watched, like, Italian, TV shows recently, love them, but I cannot do the dubbing. It's just personally,
I
I can't.
do I think it also, like, takes you out of it a little bit, right? Because
Yeah,
like, it's
because
like
then
you
the
you
mouth
know
moves the
yeah,
mouth
you
moves
know
differently.
yeah, you know that that's not what they're saying, you know that's not their voice, and it's just like, you're like, "I can't focus fully on I can't immerse myself in the story as much."
So, but going back to cable, right? So when I
Yeah.
did have cable, those like fleeting moments of luxury in my life,
Mhm.
I would watch a lot of MTV because loved like music videos and was really into Britney, and Sync, like all that like pop, like bubblegum pop era of like the 90s and early aughts. Watched all the MTV reality TV shows in the early aughts and the
Like,
late 90s.
Next?
Next, I was just thinking about Next. How did
I
you
love
know?
it's like the
I
best one.
It's the best one. Um, Even like a few episodes of like the Osbournes.
Oh, yeah.
I like I and then so mostly that Teen Mom, like shit like that.
Mhm.
And then I guess like I would also watch the Disney Channel when my parents would splurge for like the premium cable.
Ooh, fancy.
Also obsessed with Disney Channel original movies. Um, and in terms of like music and stuff, like what would play in Puerto Rican radio was obviously a lot of just music from South America and Central America and the Caribbean, right? So like
Mhm.
obviously, a lot of people now know this, but I would tell you like maybe 10 years ago, a lot of Americans that I would speak to when I first moved to the mainland, they were completely unaware there's like a complete music scene outside of the United States. It was insane. I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me that you don't know that there's like music that is not just American and British? Like, what?"
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
even when we had crossover stars in the music industry, right? Like Ricky Martin, Shakira, and like these performers in their own rights who had like already like huge followings in Central America and Latin America.
Yeah.
uh People I think they came out of nowhere and I'm like, bitch, like you don't even know. Like they sold out stadiums, like they were like the
Mhm.
Taylor Swift of their times, like
Yeah.
Shakira, huge. Still love her Spanish earlier works more than I do her like crossover stuff. I'm not saying I don't. It's just like she was
Mhm.
more you know how Olivia Rodrigo is right now? That
Yeah.
was OG Shakira in
Mm,
Spanish.
nice.
It so like like Alanis Morissette, like
Mhm.
like singer-songwriter, moody, like just perfection. Oh, hey, Cleo. My dog's just shook. So sorry guys if you can hear that. Um, so in terms of music, that's kind of what it would have been playing in like all the radio stations. But there was this one radio station that was kind of devoted to just American music. So it's just English, right?
Okay.
And when I was about 12, that's when it became like the cool thing to do was to listen to that radio station instead of
Mm.
the other, like more Latin, like the Latin focused radio stations. And that's how I got more exposed to like top 40 American music, because that's what it would like when I think about back to that time. And even now, I think a lot of the time, unless you're like listening on Spotify, right? You can listen from anywhere. But we didn't have that back then, guys. If you're listening and you live through it, you know, if you know, you know. Um, it was almost like there's like a lot of shit that didn't make it to the island because it didn't make it to like top 40, right? So I can't think of something specific right now, but I it evades me. But there are so many like cultural references and even like music from the 70s and 80s and stuff that I've never heard before. Like I didn't know who Meatloaf was. Like
Well,
that, like shit like
would
that.
would the top 40 usually be mostly pop, or did like hip hop and rap and stuff ever get
Yeah,
in?
all of that. It's all it's so like R&B, hip
Okay.
hop, rap, pop. But like if you remember like the like early aughts, late 90s, it was either bubblegum pop or like R&B hip hop.
Did like Eminem make it through?
Oh, for sure. Like
Okay.
Eminem, I'm thinking Eminem, Destiny's Child, NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, Britney, Christina Aguilera.
What about simple like pop punk, Simple Plan,
Yes, Simple Plan,
Good Charlotte, Boys
Good
Like Girls?
Charlotte,
Okay.
Panic at the Disco.
Okay, cool, cool.
So, like, you know, like super popular, like
Okay.
worldwide popular acts, right? Is what I'm thinking. 98 Degrees didn't
Eh,
quite, eh.
I'm still not
Um,
convinced I've heard like a full 98 Degrees song, so
maybe we should do an episode. Anyway, like O Town, I knew only
Mm,
because of their
the
MTV.
movies.
Well, their MTV reality show. Do you remember that? Making the Band.
Oh, I do remember that. I'm thinking like I feel like I've heard all the O-Town songs I've ever heard in my life in like soundtracks of movies and
Really? Okay, so
television.
I knew of O Town because of, like, Making the Band and
That
PTA.
makes sense.
Oh,
Yeah.
also, like, Pimp My Ride, huge fan of
Yeah,
it.
or like Cribs
Uh,
or something.
Cribs,
Yeah.
you know, like, just, like, those normal things. Um, and but, like, in my house, it was almost sacrilegious to, like, only listen to, like, English music and watch only English TV shows because my mom was really into telenovelas, which, for
Mhm.
those who don't know, are soap operas, but in Spanish. And so, like, Betty La Fea, which then became adapted in America as Ugly Betty, was like a Colombian soap that we were obsessed with in my house because I was maybe like 12 when it came out. Which, by the way, guys, it is getting a spinoff, like 20 years into the future spinoff in Amazon on Amazon Prime.
In
Like, what the
English?
fuck? In
In English?
Spanish.
Ooh, in Spanish.
Like
Wow.
with the original cast.
Ooh, that's really cool.
So like it's like following them to the future and like dealing with like the problems that they deal with, you know, as a family or whatever.
That's
The
awesome.
the the main couple that and you know, and together. Um
So
and yeah, go ahead.
I have a question for you. But
Yeah.
I don't wanna interrupt your if you're not
No,
done.
go ahead.
Okay. So I assume I don't know if we've ever had a conversation about this, but I assume your household was mostly a Spanish speaking household
Oh, it
growing
is
up.
completely a Spanish speaking
Okay.
household. Like actually my parents have pretty, I wouldn't say thick accents, but they have accents.
Okay, so then how did you learn English in school, or did you learn English by reading and
So
watching and
I
listening?
love this question
Okay.
because it lets me talk about something that I don't think I talk about a lot, which is my parents, very like obviously great people and blah blah blah. But they did not encourage me to learn English as much, I think, because there's like a deep colonial history with Puerto Rico. Like, you know, like we've been a
Mhm.
colony in one shape or another since like basically the Spanish invaded.
Yep.
And in 1898, the US invaded and took over. So it's like a little bit of a handoff of like, this is your problem, child, fix it, good luck, right?
Yep.
And one of the first things that the US tried to do was to impose English on Puerto Ricans. That did not work because imagine a country or not a country, a nation, which is what you give the designation to a place with a strong cultural identity, but that is not necessarily legal. So, for example, like I don't know if that I'm making sense. Like
No, I get it.
a country is a legal designation of like you are self-determining and self-governing,
Yeah.
and then nation is like the cultural identity of a group of people, right? So a country is a nation, but a nation can not be a country. So we are a nation, right?
Okay.
So we had such a like strong cultural identity for being, under Spanish rule for 300 years, right? That the English thing did not work for us. Like it just didn't work for the US. So even now, the official language in Puerto Rico are both Spanish and English. You can obviously like if you go to like a touristy part like San Juan, everyone speaks English flawlessly. It's great. But if you grew up where I did, which is the southwest corner of the island in a tiny sea beach town called Boquerón,
Hmm.
uh, literally means sardines. Um, it's a whole thing.
Amazing.
You won't you will hear some people that can speak English without an accent, but most people have very thick or significant accents. So I knew from a young age, I don't know, I can't explain why, right? But I knew from a young age I was going to move to the mainland when I grew up. I just knew it. Like in my heart, I knew it and I was like Bella, I wanted more. And
And no one else in your family had done that before, it or
well, the funny thing about my parents is that they did their undergrad in Northeastern University in Boston. So they did live in mainland United States in Boston for about 4 to 5 years.
okay.
And when they graduated, my dad was so homesick that they decided to return
Okay. All right.
to the island.
That's fair.
Uh, they regret that now,
Oh, they do?
like, yeah, they regret that.
Oh,
He used to work for this company called Digital, which went under in like '93. Like it was like a big like Fortune 500 corporation, and they offered to pay for his master's degree, and he declined it.
wow. Who declines that, man? That
Well, they
sounds
also paid for his bachelor's.
dang.
And I'm like, Dad, you could have just fucking taken the master's degree, you know? Um,
That would have been pretty
so
cool.
so I knew from a young age that I wanted to move to the mainland. And why I say move and not immigrate, because I fucking hate when people say that because I am a like I could be maybe a cultural immigrant, but I'm not a legal immigrant, if that makes sense. Like I moved to the States because I am allowed to because I was born an American citizen.
Yeah.
um, and when people call it immigration or like, oh, when did you immigrate from Puerto Rico? I'm like, bitch, like
This
no,
is this is a real
completely different.
question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Th When people move from like, if they're born and raised on Hawaii and then move to the continental states, like the
No one
mainland
calls that
sta
immigration.
I was gonna say, do they do that? I was gonna
No,
I didn't think that they did, so
that's exactly the argument I have made.
okay. Yeah, because I know that Hawaii is a state and Puerto Rico is not a state, but I still feel like you're an
Like,
American citizen, so
it would be like if, like, someone moved from Alaska to, like, Idaho, it'd be like, "Oh my god, you immigrated from Alaska?" Because it's not part of the 50 continental ones, you know?
yeah.
So it's stupid.
And
Anyway,
it's closer to Canada than it is to the United States. So I feel like people in Alaska sometimes just consider themselves Canadian, to be honest.
okay. Speaking for the whole of Alaska, this girl
I know a few Alaskans who would I feel like agree with that. So
is one of them Sarah Palin? Like, I don't
if
know.
no,
Anyway.
I do not know Sarah Palin, nor do I want to know Sarah Palin personally.
Anyway, um, so I because I knew I wanted to move early on, I just made a very concerted and I know this sounds like I'm making it up, but I swear it's true. I made a very concerted effort to learn English. And the way that I learned English was through watching movies, and I would put on like even like American National Movie, for example, I would watch it, I would listen to the dialogue, and I would read the subtitles and be like, oh, that's how that word's pronounced. Oh, that is how that word is pronounced. Ever since I was very, very little, like I'm talking like 6, 7 years old. Beauty and the Beast, all the Disney movies, like they're like back then, obviously like VHS tapes, right?
Yeah.
And I in Puerto Rico, you have the option to buy it dubbed in Spanish or dubbed in English, because back then, VHS types, you either get it one or the other. There's no middle ground. And my mom was usually very adamant about like she also doesn't like dubbing. So she was always also very adamant about like buying us tapes in only English. And when we went to the movies, instead of going to the Spanish showing, we would go to the English showing, like all of that. I didn't grow up going too much to the movies though, because my mom falls asleep during movies. So um but my friends and I did when were in middle school and high school. And then also college, because that was also a big pastime for us. Um, but again, there was a lot of movies that didn't make it to Puerto Rico movie theaters. I can't tell you a lot of names right now, but like only like the movies that were considered to have the probability to do well would be released in Puerto Rico, and they would usually be released like 2 or 3 weeks after they would premiere in the US. So like
Hmm.
there was always like a lag that I
Yeah.
didn't feel quite as much personally, because the internet wasn't such a thing back then.
Yeah, you
Twitter
can't
wasn't
get
such a thing
spoiled.
back
Yeah.
then. It's not like I'm missing out on a conversation that is happening online, which I would think like that would be the main difference today, where I had such FOMO. Um, and there's like a lot of things that don't make it obviously to the island, and like in media, in products, and a lot of things that or that you could only get in San Juan. For example, Sephora, well, at least when I was there, right? I can only speak up to age 24 because I'm not super, you know, well versed in like the shops. But Sephora, there was only one, and it was in San Juan. And the little town I come from is in the southwest corner of the island. San Juan is in the northeast corner of the island. And it is 3 hours to
Mm,
get across. So if I ever wanted to like go
mm,
to Sephora or a Mac store, like for makeup,
mhm.
for good makeup, I would have to drive 3 hours across the island.
So tragic,
It is
honestly.
very tragic.
I'm not even being sarcastic. I agree. It is actually very
It
tragic.
is actually very tragic. And like after like when online shopping became more prevalent, like when I was in college, that's when like my life kind of changed for me, makeup wise, because I was like, I can just order online now? Great. And I used to be like obsessed with like what not to wear and Carmody. Do you remember that on TLC?
What not to wear? Yes. What was the second one?
Carmody from not what not to wear, like the makeup artist. So
Oh.
whatever like she would recommend, I got her book. Like it's like so like recommendations of her, I would like look them up online and just like order them and like hope it didn't look shitty on me because
Aw.
you can't swatch it at the store.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And back then, like beauty blogs weren't as prevalent either. So like to find what it actually looked like on
Yeah,
someone normal and not a model was really hard. So
yeah.
I would go into like forums like Lipstick Alley and like shit like that, but like to try to find the swatches. But it was kind of hard, honestly. Um yeah, and I think that what has shaped me is that media is what has allowed me to fluently speak the English language. And I also was an avid reader. Like it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. I have literally 2 degrees in literature, a bachelor's and a master's. But reading also helped, but reading can only take you so far, because if you don't know how to pronounce the words, you're fucked. Like, what am I gonna
I
do? Like
mean, that
text?
that's why I said Hermione for the first, 3 years of reading the books.
I didn't know how to say Hermione either.
Yeah, I definitely
Literally.
went in I went into the movie
Uh-huh.
for the first movie, and my when they said Hermione's name, my jaw dropped. Like
Eh, formative moment. So, like, I remember being in ninth grade. I got into Harry Potter, like, when I was 13. I got the first 3 books as a present from my godmother, my confirmation godmother, when we were on vacation in Orlando together, and I just devoured them. Like, I was just like,
yeah.
"This is amazing." And so, when I went into a new school and I was, like, reading Goblet of Fire, people were like, I think it was Goblet of Fire, or was it Prisoner? One of the 2. And I made a friend, and she was like, "Oh, I got the first book and I couldn't get past the first 40 pages." I was like, "Girl, you gotta push through. It gets better, I swear."
Really? I feel like the first book doesn't have a slow start.
It kinda does because it's all about the Dursleys at the beginning, and she couldn't, you know.
Okay, okay.
Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But I remember having, like, super impassioned conversations about, "How do you think this is, like, pronounced? Like, is it Hermione? Is it,
Yeah.
like, what? Like, what is this?" And, like, the last names, like, British last names were kinda weird sometimes too, and, like, all these other things. And, yeah, it wasn't until we saw the movies that we learned how truly bad we were.
Yeah. Audiobooks are nice because I feel like they weren't as big like, they were definitely weren't as big when I was growing up
Oh,
because
it
they,
wasn't. Well,
um
you know which one I have on audio? Because it was like, do you remember, Borders, the bookstore?
oh my god, that
Uh,
was, like, my favorite place in the whole world, and I'm so sad they don't exist
literally
anymore.
literally my favorite place in the world. They had one at the Mayaguez Mall, which was 20 minutes away from my house, right? So it's like a different
Oh,
town.
love it.
And, like, the Mayaguez Mall was it's, like, such a, like, little basic small town. Well, Mayaguez is not a town, it's a city, but, like, literally a small town mall. Like, I mean, it's big, but it's not like, I don't know, it just doesn't have the same cachet as, like, city malls in the US to me. And I've lived because I mean, I live in San Antonio, which is, like, a pretty mid-sized city. So now I have, like, Gucci and, like, Tiffany, and, like, I'm spoiled. Not that I ever, like, shop there, it's just I'm around it, and that's enough for me.
Yeah.
We have a huge Louis Vuitton store. I'm like, "Yes, this is what I deserve." Anyway, there was, like, this huge Borders, and they had, um, I think it was Order of the Phoenix on tape,
Mm.
like, when there were literally tapes,
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say
and
is
I
that they
spent it was on sale for $10, so I got it just to see what it was, and it was,
yeah.
like, Jim Dale, and I fell in love with it, and I was like, "Oh my god," and so, now that I have Audible and we did the previous podcast, I was like, "I'm just listening to the audiobooks."
Yeah, yeah, what I was saying before was, like, it definitely wasn't, like, as easy to do audiobooks back in the day because they were, like, literal, like, cassettes at first and then eventually moved to CDs,
Mhm.
they were so expensive too.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
they were, like, $50 or so, I don't even know, it was, like, really
It
expensive.
was really expensive. I That's why I got mine for $10, right? Because it was
Yeah,
on sale, and I think there were at least 10 cassette tapes.
yeah,
I'm not kidding.
they were a lot, it's always a lot. I remember
Oh,
going
you
to,
know
like,
what I
the
was really
library.
into as a child, now that I said cassette tapes? My first cassette tape that I've ever bought with my own money, my allowance, when I was 10 years old was, uh, the band Aqua,
Mhm.
because I was obsessed with Barbie Girl. Very inappropriate song to listen to as a
Yeah,
ten-year-old, but it was my jam.
nice, that's a good one, it's a good one.
I remember vividly being in a Toys R Us, also another one of my favorite places in the entire fucking world, also gone. Very disappointed, guys. You don't even know. And
I never went to Toys R Us because we didn't my mom never wanted to spend money on toys.
rude.
I went there, like, maybe twice in my life.
That is so rude. Okay, so if it wasn't Toys R Us, even as a college student, Helene, if it wasn't Toys R Us, it was Borders for me. Like, those
Yeah,
were like
Borders was my
my
happy place, yeah.
but even as an adult, like even now, the Target toy aisles, love them. Could spend hours in them. Um, I have a I'm just a big kid. I've never grown up. Um, so I remember being in this Toys R Us and, like, Barbie Girl was playing, and it's like a core memory for me, and I was looking at,
Mhm.
like, you know, when it's, like, electronics started to be like
Wait, they were
toys?
playing that song in Toys R Us?
Yes, they were. Yes, they were, ma'am.
Did
It
they
was
had they listened to it before?
listen, sometimes they just have the radio on and whatever, like, you know? I was like, "Okay."
Interesting. Okay.
Listen, most people okay, so I will say, most people in my area, again, small beach town, the Toys R Us was still in my West, but still 20 minutes away, it's not that far. Um, they weren't even listening that hard to English music, let's be honest, or even Spanish music. I have been re-listening to some music that my mom was listening to in the car with me as I
Mhm.
was a child, like, I'm talking 5 years old, and there's some filthy lyrics there. Like, I'm talking there's a lyric that I'm thinking about right now that is okay, so it says, like, una sinfonía de gemidos, which literally means an orchestra or a symphony of moans. Like, so fucking filthy, you don't even know. Anyway, so that was a like,
Amazing.
where as when I grew up, I could listen to whatever the fuck I wanted, as long as it didn't have too many curse words. Um, and even then, like, I got away with a lot. Like, I got away with, like, my mom would let me buy the explicit version of CDs all the time. She's like, "Yeah, whatever, I don't care." Leave me alone, basically, I think.
I mean, my dad showed me my first R-rated movie when I was younger than 10. I don't remember how old I
See,
was.
but, you know, sometimes but it's I think it's more because you're the baby of the family, my friend, than it is that
Yeah, I also think my parents don't care either about the cussing. We all cuss
Yeah, well, I
together as a
also,
family,
like,
so
honestly, my mom shouldn't care about the cussing because I've never met a person with a filthier mouth.
right.
Like,
Yeah.
love you, mom, but you do like to curse a lot, which is where I get it from, to be quite frank.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that there are studies that say that people who curse regularly are more intelligent and are better at expressing their emotions.
Well, also stress relief. I love a good cursing
Yeah.
session, you know? It just helps. Like,
Yeah.
if I stub my toe or whatever, it's just like I'll say, like, coño, which is like a Spanish curse word, and it just makes me feel better. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I don't know why yelling fuck is so therapeutic, but it is.
It just is, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I I was, like, raised by the top 40 and also all of Caribbean and Latin American music, which, like, I think I don't know, it's like a nice little balance that I've got inside like, of, like, cultural differences, right? And, like,
Yeah.
I'm I often feel and you're gonna think I'm stupid probably for this, but, like, I often feel like I am, like, straddling cultures, and I belong to neither, but I also belong to both.
No, I think that makes total sense. That's not weird.
So, like, I can't like, even now that because I've been living in the mainland for the last 13 years, I can't fully go back ever, you know, like, and be, like, fully immersed in it again, but I don't think I was ever fully immersed in Puerto Rican culture because there's, like, a little bit of a I don't know, like, it's kind of like there's, like, being fully Puerto Rican means, I don't know, just speaking Spanish and rejecting colonialism, and then there's, like, being Puerto
Mhm.
Rican means, like, different things to different people, so,
Yeah.
like, my dad is, like, super staunch, like, rejecting colonialism type person, my mom is less so than him, like, politically, so and that's the other thing, like, in Puerto Rico, like, politics is basically a sport, so people have their teams, I know that there's some of that in the US, but, like, in Puerto Rico, it's, like, next level, like, just like, imagine, like, the craziest campaigns and, like, the craziest parades and stuff, and, like, at least double that, and that's how fucking crazy it is, so, like, everyone's, like has, like, political opinions, and no one shies away from like, it's just, like, a whole fucking thing, and that also shaped me into the person that I am, but, yeah, media-wise, I was really into, like, Hanson, when I was in the 6th grade. I don't know if that was part of what your sister shared with you. I don't think maybe she was a little too
My
old for it.
sister was never really into, like, boy bands. That was all my thing, but I
Oh,
was right after Hanson, and, I'm a Jonas Brothers girly, so
yeah.
I feel
So
like
I
the
was
Jonas Brothers, Hanson, like, walked so the Jonas Brothers could run, like, they're
you are
well,
correct.
yeah,
And then obviously Mary-Kate and Ashley movies, which is why we're doing season 1 on that. I would
of
make my
course.
mom get me all the movies when they were VHS. It was great. Nick oh, I was so obsessed with Nickelodeon. I
I
just
was
had
more of
like
a
a
Disney Channel girl for sure, but I did
well,
like Nickelodeon.
I mean, the thing is I was first obsessed with Nickelodeon, then I became a Disney Channel girly, if that makes sense. I loved, the Harriet the Spy movie with Michelle Trachtenberg. I
Yep,
remember
that's a good one.
having the orange VHS tape.
Yep,
Oh,
I've seen that movie multiple times.
watching people get slimed, was also part of, like, my core thing. Oh, Cartoon Network was also, like, a big favorite of mine growing up. Like, my brother was really into Ed, Ed, and Eddie, which is, like, the stupidest show, but
I
also
remember
very
it, yeah.
enjoyable.
I do remember that show, yes.
And my brother's 5 years younger than I am, so he's a little bit older than you are.
Yeah.
Um, Blue's Clues, loved, um, but
Yeah,
I was fully,
when
like,
it
8
came
years old or
to
10.
yeah, when it came to Nickelodeon, it was for me, it was like I really did love, like, The Amanda Show,
Oh
um,
my god, so great. Amanda
and
Bynes, I'm
yeah,
yeah.
and, like, The Wild Thornberrys was really fun, and then, like, classics like Drake and Josh and iCarly and stuff for sure.
See,
Uh,
iCarly and Drake and Josh, I didn't really get into because I think that was, like I might have been already in college or, like, too in my mind, too old, but I did get into, like, Lizzie McGuire,
well, see, that's Disney,
um
though, that's not Nickelodeon, but
and
yes.
oh, I know, but I'm talking about, like, teen shows,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
that era. Um, I don't
Disney
know,
did it
I
better than
did
Nickelodeon.
it really well, honestly.
Yeah, I feel like Nickelodeon had better, like, comedies,
Yeah.
but, like, in terms of impactful, like, teen media, I definitely went to Disney.
Oh, for sure. Like, and so excited when, like, the premieres for, like, the new movie was gonna happen. Oh my god, I remember being so excited of
Yeah.
every, like, Disney Channel original movie that they were, like, teasing, like, only
I
4 a year, guys? Like, look at the
mhm.
Hallmark Channel, look at what they've done.
I just, like, have that transition, like, the intro and outro burned into my brain of that kid jumping in and out of the film reel. You know what I'm
Ah,
talking about?
beautiful, yeah. You know what I have burned in my brain was all the, like, Disney stars, like, doing the wand thing with,
Yes.
like, Mickey Mouse.
You're
Beautiful.
watching Disney
Da-da,
Channel.
da-da.
My name is Hilary Duff, and you're watching Disney Channel.
Oh, so beautiful. Hilary Duff, what a like, she did childhood stardom the best way I've seen it so far.
Yeah, she's pretty great. She still is. Sad that How I Met Your Father got canceled.
Oh, that is very sad news. But yeah, I mean, this might sound a little dated if you're listening, like, 2 years from now, but, like, I've been listening to Britney's, memoir, The Woman in Me. Haven't finished it yet, but guys, there's some things there.
Does she narrate it on Audible?
No, no, no.
Okay.
Michelle Williams, the actress from Dawson's
Oh,
Creek.
I know who Michelle Williams
I know,
is.
I know, but there's also a Black Michelle Williams, so I'm making sure that
Oh,
and also this is a nostalgia podcast. She'll in here, she's well known for Dawson's Creek, not anything else.
yeah. Yeah. Definitely love her in Dawson's Creek.
Actually, I felt so strongly about her character in, like, not a great way, when I was
Really?
watching the oh, yeah, no, I was like a Katie Holmes girly, and now I'm like, "You know what? There's enough room in my heart for both of you." I now
I
understand the difference between actor and role.
yeah, I mean, I get that. I guess I get that. Um, I don't even know who my favorite character on Dawson's Creek was. I don't think it was either of them. I think
Pacey?
it was probably just Pacey. Yeah.
Of course. I mean, Joshua Jackson can still get it, first of all,
Right.
and
Yeah.
Pacey was, like, a formative crush for me, like, the character and also the actor. Ooh, Mighty Ducks. Quack, quack. Yes.
Matty Ducks, quack, quack. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, and Emilio Estevez as the coach, perfection.
I heard that Joshua Jackson and his wife are getting divorced.
They are.
Isn't that
Indeed,
sad?
they are. It is sad. It's sad when people, end their marriages, but
Yeah.
it's even sadder if they stayed in the marriage while being actively unhappy, is my opinion, but.
Yeah, definitely.
So, well, this is the year of the breakup, though. I mean, side note.
Yeah. Joe and Sophie. Sad.
A bunch of people on the things I care about on Bravo, too. Um,
Scandal.
well, Scandival started it off, honestly. It's just like a domino effect. Um, so, okay, let's talk about real quick fashion trends because that is something I'm obsessed with.
Okay.
What was back then the
Yeah.
most cringe thing that you loved?
The most cringe thing I loved?
Yes.
Probably gauchos.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah, I was really into gauchos. If people don't remember what gauchos are, sorry. They're like bell bottoms and capris had a baby. They're
Yeah.
like really, really, really wide-legged capri
Th-
pants.
They're like circus tents for your legs, but
Yeah,
short.
I definitely, I don't know, they were just comfortable and they were in fashion, so it was like, hell yeah, I'll wear some gauchos. Yeah, but now looking back on it, I'm like, those were not the moment. Though I would not wear those again. I would wear like probably 80% of the fashion trends that happened in the 90s and early aughts, I would probably wear again. That I would not
Okay.
wear.
Okay. Well, that's the one thing that you will not wear. If you could bring, okay, what do you think about like the resurgence of some of the 90s and early aughts trends that
I'm
we've
here for it.
seen?
I'm
Okay.
here for it. I love like okay, I'm not I'm not that kind of person who likes to try and pull off a crop top, but I love it on other people. I love the
Mm-hmm.
like crop
Mm-hmm.
top look. I love that that's coming back. I have always been a choker girl. I love chokers. If I could, I wish those never went out of style. Like they're so cute. Um and platform like
Did you have like those chokers that were like pretend like tattoos?
yeah,
Yeah.
like
We
the
all
like
had
the
those.
like
Like
the
the black,
plasticky
yeah,
yeah.
plasticky thing. Yeah. Yeah. We all did, I feel. Also was obsessed with Claire's.
Oh yeah, and Claire's is still there, and I still go in every once in a while just to see what the kids are up to.
What's the happenings, guys? Hey there,
Right,
fellow kids.
right, exactly.
What's the
Uh,
haps?
yeah, and honestly, I like so like platform flip flops too. I think have started coming back, and I like those, and like even just platform like combat boots and things like
Ooh,
that.
I
I
love
think
platform anything, honestly. I'm here
yeah,
for it. Especially now that I'm not wearing heels after, having a child.
yeah,
Because my feet swell up and then I've
yeah.
lost all my ability to wear heels and now I'm just like, you know what? Feels good,
Hmm.
a good platform to give me height but still be flat-footed.
Yep, that and wedges usually are a
Yeah.
lot more comfortable for sure.
Um so for me, like I'm thinking about like the most cringe fashion choices that I've made in my life, and there are a lot of them, guys. Um, a lot of them though were my parents' fault because my mom only shopped at Marshall's, which is not the same today as it was then. Then it was way worse. And my dad didn't believe in like frayed jeans or like letting me wear like jeans without hemming them, and he would hem them. Like I remember these pair of beautiful bell bottoms I got, and I was like doing like the fashion show you do, in front of your parents to
Right.
like whatever. And I went to Catholic school, so we wore uniforms except on Fridays. If you paid $1, you could wear
You
your
had to
your
pay.
yeah, of course.
Oh
If you
my
pay a
god,
dollar, and
capitalism.
well, it was to help like different like graduating classes to fundraise for
I
like their
guess,
prom
but
and stuff.
like
Yeah, I
I
know.
feel like that like people who can't afford to pay $1 every Friday are getting discriminated against.
Well, most people who went to the school could afford to pay the dollar.
Okay.
Let's just say that, okay? Anyway, um, so I was like doing the normal fashion show you do in seventh grade. I was like, look at my jeans, aren't they cute? And my dad was like, we need to hem those. So I kid you not, this man I'm so mad still. I
Oh
cannot
no.
even. This man not only hemmed my jeans with a more than an inch seam at the bottom.
Uh-huh.
These were light wash jeans. He didn't even cut them and like make him look like it was like, you know, from factory like that, the
Okay.
hem. So I had like a huge ass like wedge seam when that was not in fashion, let's be clear.
Okay.
And he like did it so like they were more than half an inch off the floor.
Mm.
And then to add insult to injury, he pressed them with a fine point on the front.
Ah.
Listeners, Helene, imagine being 12. Imagine going to Catholic school with the meanest bitches you'll ever meet.
Gosh. Being a
Seventh grade
kid.
was not kind to me. Let's be
Oh
real.
no, middle school in general is like hell. Like
Also,
if I
I
went
was
to
a I was a middle school teacher from 2009 to 2010. That's how long my career lasted in teaching, specifically middle school students. And I relived a ton of trauma I had
yeah.
not processed.
Yeah, I mean middle school is literally like if I were to go to hell today, I feel like it would probably be like my middle school days.
Oh,
Like middle school in general is just
100%.
awful. It's
A
awful.
100,000%. Yeah, so yeah. Anyway, my questionable father's fashion choices aside, because he still to this day says, "Well, in the 70s, I used to wear bell bottoms, and you had bell bottoms, and I wanted you to wear them in an authentic way." And I'm like, "No, thanks, Dad. Just leave me to
Mm,
die. You know, just leave me to die.
sad.
Leave me alone." Uh,
I'm
he thought he
sorry.
was doing me a favor, like, look at how cool my kid is, and like, literally the opposite happened.
Yeah, because parents' idea of cool is not current anymore. Come on.
Yeah. I'm trying to keep that in mind as I try not to embarrass my own child, who is 18 months old, so she doesn't know any better anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's not at the age of being embarrassed by you yet.
And I am almost looking forward to that age, honestly. I don't know why, but I am.
You're a glutton
Anyway,
for punishment.
it, it's part of growing up. It is what it is. Um, so okay, most cringe love that I had, Caprice.
I still wear capris.
Okay, I am 5'3" or 5'2". I have very long legs, which for my body, right? And I'm
I was gonna
even
say,
though
if you're
yeah,
5'3", you do not have very long
I have very
legs
long legs for my body,
for
for
your
real.
body. For your body, yes.
Like I for reference, I had an ex-boyfriend who was like 5'10", and he was a track jock. Like he used to be an athlete, and his legs and my legs were the exact same length.
Okay.
I have a very very short torso. Like I'm packed real tight on my torso. So I can wear like normal, like regular length jeans without a problem because of my long legs. Like I have the legs of a much taller person, right? Um, but capris are just not a good look for us shorties, especially if you have long legs. It just doesn't do any good for you. It just accentuates your midsection, which was very short and chubby, still is. Um, even more so now, I would say. Um, and if not the capris, definitely like the I was like such into like being a tomboy, and I had like all the like surfer like Roxy Billabong
Yeah.
whatever type t-shirts that I thought
Okay.
I looked so great on in, but like did nothing for my figure with my caprice.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
cringe.
If I could bring one thing fully back,
Okay,
I
tell
would
me.
I would bring Converse. I know they still exist,
I still
but
wear them because
but they're
I am deeply uncool because I am a parent.
yeah, they still exist. I just feel like they're not like in fashion anymore. Like just that type of shoe is not as like the high tops, even the low tops. I was just a sucker for a good Converse shoe. I miss them
I
so
I
much.
have, like right now in my closet, I have red glitter Converse, low top, and
Amazing.
a gold like, metallic gold high top that I love very dearly.
Yeah,
Still wear
I
them
really
'cause
need to go buy some more, to be honest. I miss my Converse. I'm big into combat boots right now though, so.
ooh, I just wore combat boots because it's fall
Mhm.
the other day,
Yep.
and I was like and listeners, like, I have, like, really good combat boots, like, super, like, good leather, great feeling, whatever, but I hadn't been able to wear them since, like, the 2nd trimester of my pregnancy because my feet swell up like hams and
Mhm.
like Fred Flintstone's feet. Um, and I was really worried I could never wear them again. And now my feet are finally, after a year and a half of giving birth, almost back to their like pre-pregnancy size. It'll never be the same.
I
I
was gonna
hear.
say, yeah, I hear that sometimes they just permanently change. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're permanently now longer, but it was a blessing that I usually buy boots half a size bigger than I was at the time. So
Mm,
now they're just instead of being like slightly big to accommodate like a chunky sock, now they're just big enough to accommodate a normal sock.
okay.
So like, okay, I'm good, you know? But I had to give a lot of my other shoes away, which is really sad. If I could bring what I do like that seeing now in the trends is the like sunglasses that are coming back, kind of smaller, even though I do love a large frame because I love like a 70s big moment sunglass look. But I think I've seen butterfly clips at Target.
Mm,
Been very excited for that.
love a good butterfly clip.
Not here for like the studded belt. I tell you I sent you a picture the other day. I
Yeah,
was like,
yeah.
not the studded belt, please
I
guys, don't
definitely
do
had
this to
I
me.
had a couple of those growing up, but
I'm not
yeah,
saying I didn't. I'm saying I went girl, Hot Topic was, like, part of my religion in high school, okay?
same, same. I was a big
So,
Hot Topic girly for sure.
I mean, they still exist.
Yeah, I'd still go there. There
I
and box lunch. I go to box lunch too now. It's
yeah,
very,
that's
very
but that's newer, right? Like, I didn't have
yeah, but
box
it's
lunch.
basically like a little bit less goth
Yeah, no,
Hot Topic.
I am familiar. I love
Okay.
shopping. I love shopping. But
Yeah,
Hot Topic was like
they didn't have it back in the day, that's for sure.
well, 'cause sometimes people will tell me about stores, right? And I'm
Mhm.
like, I didn't have that growing up, because again,
Yeah.
top 40 shit is what made it to Puerto Rico. So like Hot Topic made it.
Mhm.
Some department stores, but not others. Like we never had a Dillard's, for example. And like when I moved to
Yeah.
Texas, to New Mexico and Texas, like Dillard's is huge here, and I'm like, what is
Did you have
this?
Aeropostale?
In San Juan only,
Oh, okay. That
and in
was a big
Abercrombie
part.
in San Juan.
And a
Like
Hollister? Did you have a Hollister?
I think maybe in San Juan, like, in like in the big mall in San Juan that's like 3 stories high and like it's a huge like I think it was the biggest mall in the Caribbean at
Ooh,
that
ooh,
time.
what about Limited Too? That was my
I
store
didn't have
back in the
that.
day. Oh,
I didn't have that.
I loved
So
a good
whenever
Limited
I
Too.
would visit my aunt and cousins in Orlando, we would go to like the mall and I would see all these stores like Delia's and Wet Seal, like the
Yeah.
Wet Seal. I had Delia's catalogs though, and Wet Seal catalogs delivered to my PO box in Boca Raton. But like our family PO box, I was very excited every time I had a catalog. But like limited to and stuff, like I only was able to experience whenever I was visiting family.
Okay. Alright, alright.
Like we didn't have a Barnes and Noble. We just had Borders, and we only had Borders we only
Well,
started
that's
getting
fine.
a Borders I wanna say I was in high school.
I still don't understand why Barnes& and Noble beat out that Borders for, like, existence.
And you
I
know
don't
why I
understand.
loved Borders? Like, and this is a very selfish reason, but the cafe, instead of importing coffee from the US, which sorry, listeners, but your coffee sucks, or like, from elsewhere, they bought local Puerto Rican grown coffee
Nice.
and use that coffee on all the like that was my first like introduction to like a frappuccino and like all this other stuff like delicious sugar-laden coffees that I am obsessed with, and it just makes it taste much better than, like, your regular Starbucks frappuccino.
Okay,
Um,
I believe you.
and so I really liked that they did that, and I believe that was the reason their cafe was always full. Like, I think their cafe was busier than the actual bookstore at all times.
And my sister actually, I think, worked in the cafe at Borders one time, like in high school. So
Oh, awesome.
I remember it fondly.
Ah, and their croissants and, like, that was, like, my first introduction to, like, a Starbucks type cafe store, like
Yeah,
like, it's just a more chain-like,
yeah,
because, again, Starbucks in San Juan. Like, it's like every time you wanted to do something, like, that people viewed as trendy or as, like, more of the American culture, you had a much better chance of success finding that in San Juan than finding that in my neck of the woods.
Okay, all right, yeah, makes sense.
So, yeah, so obviously, like, we're rewatching a lot of the things that we loved. Maybe we'll be watching new things that either you or I haven't watched fully or did not know of
Yeah,
before. So a lot
maybe.
of it is going to be through that lens of like, this is how we grew up, and you know, like how we feel about that today is also through the lens of, well, my influences were these things.
Exactly. Yeah, it's gonna be a journey.
Ugh, I can't wait
Me
for
neither.
people to join us in this journey and let us know their thoughts. And I want to know what people's like favorite thing to wear or most cringe thing to wear was and what they'd bring back. I'm here for butterfly clips, guys. I was obsessed.
Yeah, they were really really cool looking. I do remember liking them a lot. And lip
Maybe it's
smackers.
like a zigzag part. I'm an
Uh,
accessories and hair girly.
yeah, zigzag parts are. I always just thought looked so cool. So
Ah,
I'm here for bringing those back. Good like Tara McClay from Buffy hair.
I always thought of it as like Passport to Paris Olsen twin hair. Like
Yeah, do they have the zigzag part in like some of the more recent ones we've watched? But did they have it in Passport to Paris?
I think maybe I'm just misremembering, but I feel like they did.
They yeah, it was a staple
Spiritually
of
in
the
my
time.
heart.
Of the time.
Spiritually in my heart. Also, like, bandanas were really cool back then. Do you remember that? Like, hair
Uh
bandanas? I love
huh. Yep.
those.
I never could liked wearing them to be honest, but I like them on other people.
But here's the thing, like, hats, bandanas, everything, love them, look great on me, but I get so self-conscious in public, I won't wear them.
Oh, but if they look good on you, then what do you self-conscious about?
I just feel I don't know, I oh, and that's another thing that maybe the listeners should know. I'm a person with ADHD and on the spectrum, and sometimes, obviously, a little bit awkward, and things that don't face other people really, really bother me. And I have, like, big sensory issues and all that, and, like, I just get really self-conscious and uncomfortable, and even it took me to my 30s to, like, take a hat outside of the house and wear
Mm,
it.
I just don't wear hats just in general,
But
but
but,
yeah.
like but they look really like, I have a good face shape for, like, hats. So, like, people are always like, "But then why did it take you so long to, like, start?" But it was just more of like an out
Yeah.
of body, like, creepy crawly, like, think of, like, "No, I don't want people to notice me, and I don't want people to stare at," it was it
Mhm.
was like a thing that I felt like was drawing more attention to myself than I wanted to.
Got it.
Um and I don't know, maybe I'm more in my body now and like I feel more like at ease. And I feel like also after 35, you feel way more invisible. And that's great for me because I don't like to be perceived by strangers mostly. So, which is part of being on the spectrum, as I have learned. So,
Yeah. Always learning
which is
about ourselves.
it's a funny thing to be someone who doesn't want to be perceived by strangers and then have a fucking podcast, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a little counterintuitive. I'll agree
But
with you
you
there.
can't see my face most times, so I'm okay with it.
Speaking of, should we tell people where they can follow us if they, enjoyed learning a little bit about us?
Faux shizzle. That is terrible for sure. You can go find us at Instagram at gummypod. We are currently only doing Instagram and Substack. We're, also a newsletter. Gummypod, gummypod.substack.com.
Yep. And then, if you want to follow us personally, you can follow me on various social media platforms. It's just my first and last name, Helene, spelled Helene, and last name is Karp with a K, Karp. And I'm sure if Adri wants to give out her information, she can, but
I'm not going to dox myself. Are you kidding? No, it's fine. You can follow me on Threads, on Instagram, on Twitter. I don't tweet anymore, but if you want to, I guess. At Anana Banana. It is ANANA banana. Like
yes.
the fruit.
Yes, we'll be posting all about the pod and our lives and just we'll see you over there, and hopefully you enjoy these podcast episodes that we've been cooking up for you about the Mary-Kate and Ashley movies, and we're so excited.
Quite the ride, I will say, because not only do we talk about who the director is, who were the writers, who are the people who help craft and put this all together. We talk about scene by scene situations and our thoughts on them, and like shit, like how many montage scenes are there? How many shots of Diet Coke can we find? Normal things that we talk about. Then
and of course the fashion.
The fashion. We also talk about feminism. Like, does it pass the Bechdel test? And most notably, we do give about 3 minutes tops to the resident white man to give his spiel of what he thought of it. But because obviously we are raising a tiny human together, he is not in, as they say, in studio with us for this. So he just leaves us a voice memo.
Yeah, he is a hoot. I love his little notes that he has. So you guys will enjoy it too.
In the words of the poets of NSYNC, bye, bye, bye. Growing Up Millennial is an independent entertainment podcast hosted and produced by Helene Karp and Adri Wilson. Our conversations in every episode fall under Section 107 of the Copyright Act, identifying criticism and comment of copyrighted material as examples of activities qualifying as fair use. Helene Karp manages our social media. Adri Wilson edits our audio and does all our graphics. You can let us know your thoughts by emailing us at gummypod@gmail.com. That is gummypod@gmail.com. You can follow us on Instagram at gummypod, and we are also a newsletter. Go check us out at gummypod.substack.com. I mean, we will have a rom-com season, right?
Not if you watch all of them with Seth before.
It's fine. By the time we get to that, it's going to be like a year from now, and then we won't remember shit.
There's a difference between 20 years ago and 20 months ago.
Okay, but what if I told you, because I have the DVDs, what if I told you to watch Passport to Paris during the pandemic? You would have said no?
I know you didn't. You would have told me that.
I can't remember if I did. Probably. I did a lot of weird stuff during the pandemic, you guys. I gained 40 pounds. This is my life. I also then had a baby after gaining the weight. So I gained 80 pounds total.
I mean, I also gained a lot of weight, but that was because of PCOS. So
I mean, but that's
different.
I gained the weight because I couldn't stop fucking eating because I was stuck at home all day.
Anyway, this is no longer on topic. Is there anything else you want to discuss?
No, I mean, there's editing for this. It's fine.